What if I told you the woman you love, the one who stares into your eyes, whispers she'll never leave, doesn't even know why she'll betray you? Not if, when, and worse, it won't be her fault, because the choice won't come from her mind. It will come from something far older, buried deep in her unconscious. Something Freud tried to expose over a century ago, and they tried to bury him for it. In his private letters, Freud warned of a terrifying force inside every woman, an ancient psychological code that overrides logic, morality, and even love itself. A code she can't explain, but you can feel it. The cold shift in her eyes, the silence that grows after you open your soul. The moment she withdraws, not with rage, but with indifference, as if you never mattered at all. Freud spent decades decoding this hidden side of the female mind, what he called the unconscious betrayal. And what he found was so disturbing, modern psychology refuses to talk about it. You are not being rejected by her. You are being rejected by a program, one written in shame, shaped in childhood, and perfected over millennia of survival. The question is not, why did she leave? The question is, can you survive knowing the truth? She said she wanted loyalty. She said she was done with games. She told you she chose you on purpose. But if Freud were alive today, he'd shake his head and whisper, she didn't choose, her unconscious did. Sigmund Freud's most disturbing idea wasn't about sex. It wasn't about childhood trauma. It was this: free will is an illusion. He believed that 90% of human behavior isn't governed by thought, but by unconscious forces we don't even know exist. Desires we repress, instincts we deny, memories we rewrite to survive. And in women, he argued, this unconscious drive is even more dominant, not because women are irrational, but because their very identity formation is rooted in something far older than rationality: shame, mimicry, and emotional survival. Think about this. She tells you what she thinks she wants: stability, respect, loyalty. You give her all of it. And still one day, she disappears. No warning, no reason, no closure. Because the truth is, her conscious mind was never in control. Freud saw it in case after case. Women who would beg for affection, then reject it when given. Who claimed to hate dominance, yet found themselves obsessed with the man who ignored them. Who swore they wanted love, then ran the moment it was real. This isn't hypocrisy. This is projection. Her conscious mind is saying, I want a good man. But her unconscious is still chasing the first wound, the one that taught her love means emotional instability, conditional affection, and control masked as care. So when you love her without needing to control her, when you show up without disappearing, when you offer peace instead of chaos, her body revolts, because it doesn't recognize safety. It only recognizes patterns. Freud believed that most women are replaying unresolved childhood imprints with every man they meet, not on purpose, not consciously, but through what he called repetition compulsion, the urge to relive the trauma, hoping for a new outcome, yet unconsciously ensuring the same pain repeats. That's why, she says, I don't know why I left. I just didn't feel it anymore. It's not you, it's me. She's not lying. She's revealing the truth that most men refuse to accept. She was never fully in control of her desires. And this is the terrifying part. Even when she thinks she's making a rational choice, her biology, her childhood, her unconscious mind are already 5 steps ahead. Every smile, every word, every moment of affection can be real and programmed at the same time. This is the illusion of choice. And until you understand it, you will keep asking the wrong question. Why did she leave? Instead, ask this: what inside her made her incapable of staying? Freud made a brutal observation that even modern psychologists tiptoe around. A man feels guilt, a woman feels shame. At first glance, it seems like semantics, but it's not. It's a window into the core difference between the male and female psyche, and why men and women process betrayal, manipulation, and morality in such radically different ways. Guilt is internal. It comes from breaking your own code. Shame is external. It comes from being seen breaking someone else's. Freud believed that a man's superego, his moral compass, is built on guilt. When he lies, cheats, or fails to protect, he suffers internally. He punishes himself. But the female superego? Freud argued it was less developed, not in a derogatory sense, but in a biological one. He believed that for evolutionary reasons, the female psyche is governed by social survival, not moral principle. In other words, a woman doesn't ask, "Is this right?" She asks, "Will I be judged?" So when she betrays you, she doesn't feel guilt for hurting you. She feels shame for being caught. That's why her story changes. That's why she rewrites history, not to deceive you, to protect herself from the terror of exposure. This explains the bizarre emotional whiplash so many men experience. One week she's head over heels, the next she's cold, blaming you for things that make no sense. It's not logic, it's not fairness, it's emotional camouflage. To admit wrongdoing would mean facing shame, the one emotion her unconscious is hardwired to avoid at all costs. Freud's case studies reveal this time and again. Women who would rather sabotage love than admit vulnerability, who lash out at the man who gets too close, not because they hate him, but because he sees too much. In Freud's famous paper, Some Psychical Consequences of the Anatomical Distinction Between the Sexes, he describes how a girl's psychological development is shaped by envy, dependency, and external approval. From early on, the girl learns, "My value is determined by how I'm seen," so she becomes a master of perception. She crafts her identity around being wanted, admired, and praised. But inside, something darker grows, the terror of being exposed as not enough. That's why when a man offers unconditional love, she often recoils. Because deep down, she doesn't believe she deserves it. And worse, if she accepts it, she risks being fully seen. And if you see her, not the performance, not the persona, but the real woman beneath, she fears one thing above all: you'll leave. So she strikes first, not out of cruelty, but out of self-protection. Because unlike guilt, which asks, "How do I make this right?" shame whispers, "Make it disappear, rewrite it, deny it ever happened." You thought she ghosted you because she didn't care. No, she disappeared because you saw her. And to the female unconscious, that is the ultimate threat. There's a word Freud made infamous, one that modern psychology has quietly buried: hysteria. In his era, it described a mysterious set of symptoms: sudden paralysis, uncontrollable weeping, hallucinations, fainting spells, erratic mood swings, all seen almost exclusively in women. Doctors couldn't explain it. Freud did. He claimed these weren't illnesses at all. They were expressions of unconscious emotional warfare. Let's be clear. Freud wasn't saying women were faking symptoms. He was saying the mind, the female unconscious, was weaponizing emotion to regain power. His most famous example, the case of Anna O. She was intelligent, cultured, and tormented. Paralysis of her limbs, mysterious coughing fits, emotional breakdowns. Her doctor, Josef Breuer, treated her with hypnosis, helping her recall repressed memories of watching her father die. As the memories surfaced, the symptoms vanished. Success? Not quite. Because as soon as she recovered, Anna turned on Breuer. She accused him of impregnating her, a complete fabrication. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. His career was nearly ruined. Freud studied this and came to a dark conclusion. Hysteria wasn't a cry for help. It was a subconscious strategy, a way for women to shift blame, rewrite truth, and regain control in a world where overt power wasn't accessible. And now, over a century later, nothing's changed. Only the methods have evolved. You've seen it. The tears at the perfect moment, the sudden breakdown when you catch her lying, the emotional storm that erupts when you calmly speak the truth, what looks like drama, what feels like irrationality, is often calculated by the unconscious. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Her unconscious isn't interested in facts, it's interested in power. Freud called this hysterical cognition, the female mind's ability to alter reality itself in order to protect the emotional narrative. She doesn't lie like a man. She believes what she feels in the moment, even if it contradicts what she felt yesterday. You call her out, she cries. Now you're the abuser. You defend yourself, now you're gaslighting. You see, hysteria didn't disappear. It just got new language that punishes male logic and rewards female emotion. And here's where it gets darker. The more emotionally honest you are, the more vulnerable you become, and the more power she gains. Because once you start explaining yourself, you've already lost. You've given her the narrative. She is no longer the partner. She's the director, the editor, the audience, and the judge. Freud knew that hysteria wasn't madness. It was mastery of perception, of emotional leverage, of reality itself. That's why men often walk away from a relationship confused, broken, even doubting their own sanity, because you weren't in a relationship with her logic. You were in a relationship with her unconscious, and when it decides you're no longer useful to her emotional storyline, it rewrites the ending. You were never the villain. You were just cast that way. You're sitting across from her. She's laughing, smiling, glowing. You feel it. The connection is real. Then suddenly, she's gone. No argument, no betrayal, no explanation, just silence. You rack your brain for answers, replay every moment, searching for what you did wrong. But Freud would offer a far darker explanation. She didn't choose to leave. Her biology did. Modern men want to believe that relationships are based on communication, compatibility, and shared values. But that's a fantasy, and Freud would tear it apart. He argued that beneath the conscious mind lies a realm of instincts and impulses inherited from millennia of survival-based programming, and in women, that programming is written in blood, hormones, ovulation, menstrual cycles, evolutionary cues, each one whispering commands she can't consciously hear. You think she ghosted you because she found someone else? No, her hormonal state shifted. During ovulation, studies show women become more drawn to dominant men, stronger jawlines, deeper voices, more risk-taking behavior. She didn't choose that shift. Her biology did. During menstruation, her cortisol rises, her tolerance for flaws drops. She becomes hypersensitive to emotional tension, less open to intimacy. Again, she's not lying. She truly feels what she says in that moment. I just don't think we're right for each other anymore. But give her 2 weeks. She's liking your posts again. She's accidentally texting you. She misses your energy. What changed? Nothing. Except her hormones. This is the biological betrayal code, the hardwired instinct that tells her, secure the best genes when you're fertile. Secure the most stable man when you're not. Push him away when he no longer excites you. The Spartans knew this. In ancient Sparta, husbands were forbidden from sleeping beside their wives during menstruation, not because of superstition, because they knew a bleeding woman is a hostile woman. She isn't your enemy. She isn't evil, but she is unaware of the forces moving through her body. For thousands of years, women didn't need to understand these patterns. They embodied them. But now, in an age of birth control, therapy, feminism, and personal choice, we pretend the code is gone. It's not gone. It's simply unseen. Freud would argue this is why modern relationships feel like walking through a minefield, because you're dealing with a person who believes she's in full control, while her deepest decisions are being made by something else. And the worst part, she doesn't know. So she invents reasons after the fact. You were too nice. The spark was gone. I just needed space. These are not lies. They're narratives written by the conscious mind to explain the actions of the unconscious. Freud called this rationalization, when the brain creates logic after the decision has already been made. You think she chose to betray you? She didn't. Her program chose, and she obeyed. There are two women inside every woman. Freud didn't whisper this. He declared it. And it terrified everyone. He called it the Madonna-whore complex, the psychological split that drives female desire into two incompatible selves. One part of her wants to be cherished, adored, respected. The Madonna, the nurturer, the good girl, the woman who earns society's praise. The other wants to be devoured, the whore, the primal shadow, untamed, impulsive, amoral. She craves domination, chaos, surrender. And here's what Freud found most disturbing. Both are real. Neither is in control. She'll swear to you she wants a stable relationship, a man who listens, cares, supports. And she does. But in the silence of her fantasies, she imagines the man who doesn't ask for permission, who ignores her texts, who sees her not as a partner, but as a possession. You've seen this. She dates the good guy, then cheats with the one who treats her like an afterthought. She builds a life with the provider, but obsesses over the man who made her feel powerless. This isn't dysfunction, this is duality. And the more she denies the whore within, the more power it gains in the dark. Freud saw this duality erupt in his patients. A quiet librarian who confessed to writing violent, erotic fiction under a pseudonym. A moral, modest wife who secretly visited brothels to be degraded. A feminist academic who married a submissive husband and cheated with a violent, emotionally distant construction worker. When confronted, they wept. I hate that I want him. It disgusts me, but I can't stop. You see, a woman's public desires are often the opposite of her private cravings. Why? Because society praises the Madonna, but her body remembers the whore. In prehistoric tribes, the man who survived wasn't gentle, he was dangerous. The genes of the unpredictable, dominant male still echo in her unconscious, not because she's evil, because she's wired for survival, and so the duality splits her in two. She needs to be seen as pure, but hungers for the forbidden. She says she wants peace, but her nervous system is addicted to chaos. She says she wants love, but lust, real, physical, undeniable lust, is triggered by the man she knows will never stay. You love her, you give her peace, and she leaves you for a man who tears her apart. And here's the cruelest part. She doesn't understand it either. Freud called this the uncanny, the horror of seeing something familiar become alien. The moment when she looks in the mirror and sees a version of herself she can't explain. So what does she do? She punishes the man who sees both sides. The man who refuses to choose one version of her. The man who says, I see the Madonna, I see the whore, and I'm not afraid of either. Because once you see both, you can't be controlled by either. Every man remembers the moment he realizes the woman he loved is two people. One is soft, warm, affectionate, the girl who looks at you like you're the only man alive. The other, cold, calculating, silent, as if you were nothing. The shift happens overnight. You say one wrong thing, you disappoint her, you show weakness, and suddenly she becomes someone else. Freud called this phenomenon the uncanny. When something familiar turns alien, he believed it was the result of a war deep within the female psyche, not a war against men, a war against herself. From birth, women are given two lies. You are equal to men, but also you are better than men, kinder, more evolved, morally superior. So what happens when her biology contradicts that? What happens when she feels desire for the man who disrespects her? What happens when she enjoys the power that comes from rejecting someone who loves her? She hates herself. But instead of facing that hate, she redirects it onto you. You become the container for her shame. She punishes you for the parts of herself she can't accept. This is why the more you love her, truly, unconditionally, the more she tests you, pushes you, sabotages the relationship. Because if you see the real her, the chaos, the shadow, the contradiction, and still stay, she can no longer blame you for her unhappiness, and that is unbearable. Freud's disciple, Helene Deutsch, documented a famous case in the 1930s. A radical feminist, brilliant, articulate. She wrote essays about the evils of patriarchy, about male oppression, about the need for female liberation. And yet, she married a controlling, domineering man who forbade her from publishing. She obeyed. In therapy, she cried, "I hate that I need his rules, but when he's firm with me, I feel peace." It shattered Freud's colleagues because it revealed something horrifying. A woman's conscious mind can preach independence, while her unconscious craves submission. She says she wants partnership, but she feels safe in hierarchy. She says she wants kindness, but her body responds to unpredictability. She says she's in control, but the one who controls her is the version of herself she's most afraid of. And here's the tragedy: she knows. On some level, she knows. That's why she lashes out, why she projects blame, why she says, "You're too good for me. You deserve someone better." She's not complimenting you, she's revealing the truth. If you love me, you must not see me, and if you do see me, you won't stay. Because the one thing she fears more than abandonment is being fully accepted. Not for the version she shows the world, but for the creature inside. And if you say, "I see her, and I still choose you," she'll either collapse into love or run like hell. Because Freud's final, unspoken insight was this: a woman cannot love you fully until she stops hiding from herself, and most never do. You've seen it now, the illusion of choice, the shame that rewrites reality, the biological betrayal code, the forbidden duality, and the self-hatred she dares not speak. But here's the question Freud never answered publicly, only hinted at in private letters. Can a man survive this? Can he live with a creature who doesn't know what she wants? Who says one thing but desires another? Who punishes love and rewards indifference? The modern world tells you to be more sensitive, to open up, to communicate. But Freud's case files told a different story. A devoted husband who brought his wife flowers every week. She left him for a man who ignored her. A sensitive poet who wrote sonnets for the woman he adored. She cheated with a convicted felon. A stable provider who gave his girlfriend everything she asked for. She cried, "There's no spark." And Freud realized the truth no therapist wants you to hear. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man. She falls in love with a feeling. And when that feeling fades, so does her loyalty. So what can a man do? Freud never wrote it in his books, but buried in his letters, in his therapy notes, is a pattern, a forbidden strategy. What he whispered to those who dared to listen. Here it is. 1. Withdraw before she does. When you sense her pull away, don't chase, don't explain, don't beg, pull back first. Let her feel the absence, let her wonder what she's losing. Her unconscious doesn't crave security, it craves tension, mystery, uncertainty. You must become the one who can walk away without flinching. 2. The power of the unsaid. Don't explain yourself, don't justify, don't defend. Women don't respect words. They respect silence charged with meaning. Casanova didn't explain. Napoleon didn't apologize. Freud didn't negotiate. You must learn to say less and mean more. 3. Embrace her darkness without fear. Every woman has a shadow, a side she hides from the world and from herself. Most men recoil from it. Judge it. Try to fix it. Don't. See it. Smile at it. Make peace with it. If she tests you, don't react. If she lies, don't panic. If she punishes, don't flinch. You must become the mirror that doesn't shatter, no matter what she reflects. This is not about controlling her. It's about not being controlled by her. Because if you believe everything she says, if you chase her words and not her patterns, If you wait for her to love you the way you love, you will be destroyed. Freud's last words on the subject of women were simple. The great question, which I have not been able to answer, is, what does a woman want? But maybe the better question is, why do men keep sacrificing themselves to find out? This is not about hating women. It's about seeing them, fully, clearly, without illusion. And when you do, you stop playing their game and you start playing your own. If this message woke something in you, like share, subscribe, and support the channel through the link in the description.